Hello and welcome to the Eye on the U podcast, Miami Herald's Miami Hurricanes podcast. I'm David Wilson. I'm joined as always by our five-star reporter here at the Miami Herald, Susan Miller Degnan. Susan, what's going on?
Hey there. Oh, it's all good. I tested negative, so I'm happy.
There you go. Yeah, it is, and it's star season, as I said. Obviously, we're recording this Thursday. We should say we're recording this Thursday morning. I'm going to be at the state championships tonight, so we couldn't do it after Samson Okunlola's planned commitment this afternoon. But so, obviously that could change things here. Miami seems to be in a very good shape to land his commitment today.
Yep.
Obviously, it would be a huge addition to what they obviously had this great run in the summer that got so much hype, but they're kind of putting together a similarly great run here in the postseason with already three blue chip guys committed since the end of the regular season. And now we are just a couple days away from signing day. Obviously, guys can officially start signing Wednesday. A couple might go through the end of the weekend or end of the week. I think it go Wednesday through Friday. I remember last year, Jaleel Skinner, I think, signed on either Thursday or Friday of that week. So yeah, so it should be a good day for Miami, I guess we should say. Wednesday obviously could turn into a good week. It seems like for the most part they're going to be done Wednesday. And right now, obviously this number is changing every minute because of commitments. But I looked, right. Miami number 7 class in the country in the 24/7 composite rankings.
And on 3 too.
And on 3 also.
Yeah, number 7.
And if they add, they have a class calculator on 24/7. If they add Samson Okunlola to this group, based on the current rankings, and again, other guys can lose and gain commits, so everyone's numbers are changing. But that would jump Miami all the way up to number 3 if they get Samson Okunlola, which obviously, that I think that would be kind of the last big piece of this class. So they would probably slide a little bit between now and the end of the early signing period. But either way, they're tracking toward a potential top 5 class, which it's kind of like it's funny. It's obviously the season did not go as planned at all. But the one thing we knew about Mario is he is going to recruit, and he has definitely proved that this year.
Yeah, I mean, from the day he stepped on campus, probably before the day he stepped on campus, it's been the same thing. I mean, last year, right, there was like no time between him coming and
I remember he got, I think December 3rd maybe was his first day, something like that. December 6th, something like that. And I remember I was at the press conference with the big press conference that morning, which was he touched down in Miami, I think that morning or maybe late, whatever, kind of around midnight, I think.
Right.
And then we wrote, and I went up to Miami Central to I think do like high school playoff preview or something. And I get there, and Mario Cristobal and the entire coaching staff is
that's right
to trickle in. So boots on the ground right away. I think he went in home with Wesley Vissaint that night, which wound up being a big deal. So yeah, I mean that part of Mario has been as advertised, certainly.
Yeah, and the players are his best reviewers, I guess. When I see their comments, it's hard not to think he's like the best. So as far as recruiting goes, and now they just gotta let's not count our whatever chickens, but I think if he gets who we think they're gonna get, now they just have to start performing, although they're very young. These are the younger guys, and like we said, we never know. We always think they're going to be stars. Everybody's a star, and then we'll see what happens. And what I just thought of, you're the expert on this. You're going to know this probably. Mm-hmm. Now, what happens if they get all the guys that I think they have 23 committed now,
yes.
and then get a couple more that they might get. How many would they on actual national signing day? It's so funny. How many they could get as many, right?
Well,
Is
this
there
year,
a new rule
yeah,
now that
this
for
year
this year?
there's no limit on the number.
Oh,
Usually it's the 25. You can fudge it a little bit with the counters
right.
because of the early and late period. But yeah, this year it's unlimited. Obviously, you need to be under 85
You have to be 85 or less or fewer.
on your
Yeah,
total roster. But like, let's say, if Miami only has 45, they have more than this. But I'm just saying, if you have 45 scholarship guys, you
right.
could sign a 40-man class and it would be allowed. So yeah, I mean,
I wonder
I
how we
think,
have to see how many they have.
yeah,
You
there'll
know?
be a couple of big ones. We'll talk about that toward the end. The names that are like kind of what we're still watching for going into signing day and beyond, because there are a handful of notable names that I know or last I talked to them, people's minds change all the time,
Mhm.
are planning to push it until February, which obviously could mean Miami could make a late addition or two. But yeah, for the most part, I think they're going to be pretty close to done this weekend. I think pretty much everyone committed is basically locked. And I think the only other person I've seen planning to visit elsewhere is Reed McKeska, one of the 3 tight ends they have committed, who's planning to visit South Carolina this weekend. So we'll see what happens there.
Okay.
Obviously, last visit is usually important. But there have been a couple times this year where Miami has beaten guys right after they visited elsewhere. Obviously, Reuben Bain earlier this week, and if they pull off Samson Okunlola this afternoon, that would be similar with him visiting Florida over the weekend. So we'll see. Antoine Jackson, I think heard from Deion Sanders at one point. I'm not sure the latest there, but for the most part, they're going to get most of these guys signed. Definitely all the big ones at this point. Cormani McClain was the other one that Alabama was coming for. We'll see what happens there. He does not do a lot of interviews, so he tries to keep things relatively under wraps. But sounds like he's going to stick with this. He'll be in Miami actually this weekend for state championships with Lakeland High. So yeah, I mean, it's trending toward a really good day for Miami. And, like I said, the June run is obviously the core of this whole thing, all the guys they got back then. But this late push they've gotten, especially if they add Okunlola this afternoon, has been, I'd say kind of more impressive considering how poorly the season went. New coach always gets that new coach bump. This year they went 5-7 and still flipped the kid from Michigan. Beat out Ole Miss for a really good running back from down here in South Florida, beat out Florida State for the best player in Dade County, and might add a 5-star tackle to that group too.
Yeah, I think they'll I think they're going to keep most of their guys. I think there inevitably are, I don't know, on signing day usually there's a flip or two. There'll be something, but I also have a feeling that Mario has something up his sleeve. Like I have a feeling that Mario, then if he thinks somebody might flip, then he's gonna save one. He's gonna to announce. Maybe I'm wrong. Like, what do you call it? A silent commitment or what? I don't know. I feel like there's gonna be somebody that we get to the press conference, and all of a sudden, hot off the press, there's some kind of release saying so and so just. Mario says, "Oh, look who we just got," or whatever.
Yeah.
And so I just have this feeling that's going to happen.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, it's interesting because that could be a transfer guy too, right? That's the wrinkle in this is we got to see.
Exactly.
Miami's been involved with a couple big transfers here. Javion Cohen, not sure if he's one of us, but offensive lineman from Alabama. The D2.
I'm not. No.
The D2 wide receiver. His last name is spelled like Tesla. I can't imagine it's actually Tesla. There's a couple guys that they've been really involved with here. So, yeah, I think between that and then there's a couple of big names that are still going to be out there. I think on signing day, I got local guys, so it's kind of hard to make that a surprise, right? Damari Brown from American Heritage, cornerback, is. I believe the plan over there is that he's going to announce on ESPN at some time in the afternoon, a Miami Alabama battle there, Hurricanes legacy. So there's obviously, Alabama's really recruited that school well. Miami has felt good about that recruitment all the way through. And then Stanquan Clark from Miami Central, who's been committed to Louisville since the summer, but Miami has kept recruiting him, and I think it's possible he could officially visit Miami this weekend, with Reuben Bain also set to take his official visit. So yeah, I think they're in position to potentially, in addition to whatever happens with Okunlola, which obviously everyone will know by the time they listen to this,
Right.
they have a chance to make a couple more big additions. Both those guys are, 4-star recruits. And like you said, it doesn't mean they're going to be stars, but they're a nice little thing to show off on signing day.
Yeah. Great.
Okay, so let's run through they actually made 2 big additions this week. And when we were originally talking, I kind of forgot that Christopher Johnson was this week too.
Right.
But they get Christopher Johnson on Sunday. A big deal because of how much they're losing at running back, I think, more than anything else. Obviously, Jalen Knighton headed to SMU. Thaddeus Franklin, good depth piece in the portal. So you've got Chaney, you've got Parrish, you got Trevante Citizen. We knew they needed at least one more running back, probably 2.
Right.
They get one with Christopher Johnson, who our track athlete of the year at the Miami Herald last year, best sprinter in South Florida, probably. So he's got that, the straight line speed and all that kind of stuff, and a home run hitter, right? Like and a guy who I think can play. I know he kind of envisions himself mostly as just like a traditional running back, but you could see him do some of the same stuff they do with like Brashard Smith. So I think a pretty good get there, especially it looked like Ole Miss had some momentum to pluck him out of South Florida. I think Miami will still be involved with Mark Fletcher all the way up until the traditional national signing day. They're trying to battle Florida for him. Last I talked to him, he said he plans to wait. So I think taking 2 running backs, like we said, probably wouldn't be crazy, especially 2 very different guys. Fletcher's a power back, Johnson's a speed guy, but getting one in the fold, locking up one of those spots, pretty big deal going into signing day.
Yes, and I think would love to see them get 2 running backs.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like they'll add another one,
never end up.
Whether it's Fletcher or a portal guy, I think they need a little bit more, because we saw how important depth is last year, and 2 guys coming off injuries, right? Citizen, I know we saw Chaney at the end of last year.
We haven't seen
him very much. Yeah.
Yeah. What did we see? 2 carries or something?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, or 1 carry. I mean, we need to see more running backs. To me, one's not enough, and you never know. Like running backs, they're that one position that you think someone's going to be, he's the speed king, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's fast, but can he handle all those defensive guys on top of him? Can he get anywhere? I mean, just because you're fast doesn't mean you're going to be a good running back. So
yeah, we've seen it.
He might be. You're going to know him better than I do.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's a little bit more of a project, but yeah, we have seen that happen actually kind of a lot with Miami. Going back to the 2018 class when Lorenzo Lingard was the star in that class, and then Cam Harris ended up being the better running back, having a much better career than Lingard.
Did Lingard just enter the portal again?
Maybe. I mean, I saw he was at Florida. He was at Florida for a couple of years. And then even in the Knighton and Chaney were ranked relatively similarly. But Henry Parrish was kind of the 3rd running back from South Florida in that class. He was an incredible high school player, but not as highly ranked by the recruiting services. And obviously he has had the best career of those 3. Obviously injuries playing a big role with Chaney, but still, like, it's really hard to know, 3-star running backs become stars all the time. Like, that's, you look at who like NFL starting running backs are, and like, you've got you got guys from every which school who are undersized or whatever it is. So yeah, I think just it's kind of like, it's different than quarterback, where obviously quarterback, I think you just need a good guy every year, and there is a threshold, like a guy, you want a certain level of talent. Obviously there are, like fluke stories of a Stetson Bennett becoming a Heisman finalist from going to a walk-on, but running back is really a spot where just like take swings, get bodies in there.
Or Mr. Irrelevant.
He was a 4-star recruit though, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, listen, I was positive that was going to have a Mr. Irrelevant. I mean, like, I'm just
Well, you
waiting.
know, like Brock Purdy, I believe like Miami like loosely recruited him that year. And I think they took a Cozy Perry instead. So you would have had your Mr. Irrelevant then. The other I'd say even, you know, the bigger it was the story of the week kind of in some ways for Miami, at least until this afternoon. Reuben Bain committing to Miami over
Yep.
Florida State on Tuesday at the Nat Moore Trophy ceremony, wins the Nat Moore Trophy, then commits. And now he'll try to win a 4th straight state championship on Friday. He is there's like 2 different tiers of there's 2 different types of like big local additions, right? There's like, if you get the 5-star South Florida kid, that's a big deal. And then it's also a big deal when you get the, you know, like Xavier Restrepo, when he committed, everyone's like, this guy's just, you know, he's got all the intangibles, winner, all that kind of stuff. Henry Parrish, I think, would fall in that same category, where not the highest ranked recruit, but anyone who cares about football in South Florida, like, knows that guy's like highly respected and all that kind of stuff. And Bain kind of like intersects that, where he's the top ranked recruit in Dade County. And also, like, I don't think anyone, you know, sometimes at those top 100 5-star recruits, everyone, you know, they get nitpicked to death, right? You're like, he's overrated. Yeah. It's hype because of how big he is, how fast he is, how strong he is.
But this kid's really good.
Yeah, I mean, he had 29.5 sacks last year, 28 this year. And
that's crazy.
You know, high school coaches fudge the numbers a lot. I'm sure you remember that from your days covering high schools. I've seen Reuben Bain play a lot, and he gets 2 or 3 sacks every time I watch him play. So really, I don't think 28 is very far off, even if it's fudged maybe a little bit.
No, I'll go with you on that one. And sometimes it's harder to tell, like what we said with running backs and with receivers even.
Mm-hmm.
I have found in my experience, but yeah, I'm very excited about this one, and they need it. They need it really badly.
Yeah, I mean, they're losing. We talked about it last week. They kind of are thin on the defensive line. All of a sudden, we're mostly a defensive tackle, which I know Reuben wants to. You know, he considers himself a true defensive end, but you know, he's definitely a guy you could see play that Chad Thomas or Greg Rousseau role, where on 3rd down he plays defensive tackle.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, he's like, I think so, like, he's ranked pretty similar, like what Nigel Kelly was last year. Would not be surprised if his freshman year kind of goes similar to Nigel, right, where he is, you know, not a starter, probably, you know, he's going to be behind, barring any more exits or draft departures or anything. He's going to be behind Mesidor and Jafari Harvey probably all year, but I think he can certainly help. You know, they're losing obviously Mitchell Agude and a bunch of guys inside. So yeah, they need him, and it's the kind of guy, like, you don't want to lose a Miami Central kid whose older brother is a grad assistant at Miami, whose former coach is in your recruiting office at Miami. And I think people thought it was going to be Miami all along. And at various points, Auburn, you know, they're probably helped by Auburn and Louisville both having coaching changes, because I think they were the toughest challengers here.
Right.
But ultimately, this, like, his nickname is Hurricane, and he's a Hurricane. So, like, there you go.
Yeah, and I love what he said about Miami. They need help bad.
Yeah.
In your story, they need help right now, and I'm willing to come in right now and make a change. You know, wanting to bring Miami back. I love that kind of kid. So
yeah. Well, I'll say at the Nat Moore ceremony, there have been 4 finalists. 2 of them are Miami commit. Well, yeah, now 2 of them are Miami kids. Reuben Bain and Nathaniel Joseph from Miami Edison, who I was told, you know, they said this at ceremony, 4.1 GPA. I knew he was a very smart kid, but like, and he's the same. He's been kind of the leader of this class for a long time. You know, he committed early on, flipped from Clemson.
right.
You know, grew up wanting to be a Hurricane, all that kind of stuff. And you know, it's certainly the message that Miami has been sharing with, especially these highly ranked kids all along, who, you know, like I said, Ray flipped from Clemson. Reuben had Florida State on him. Francis Mangoa could go anywhere he wants in the entire country.
Oh, how big is that?
But they see that opportunity, and what Miami
Yeah.
started, I think 6 freshmen at various points last year, especially on defense. They're very young with probably their 3 or 4 of their best players as underclassmen. So these guys, I mean, it's cliche, right? Everyone, like, you want the right kind of kids, the right culture kids. But at least I think the handful of like top local kids, they believe it, and they like Reuben and Nathaniel are both like high character. Like, I mean, I don't want to pretend I know everything about them, but those are 2 guys I've talked to a lot, covered a lot. They've been all county for us year after year.
Right.
And those are like 2 high character kids, certainly.
It's very important to me.
And Francis
Excellent.
Mingo, I've only talked to him once, but he comes off the same way, I should say.
Right. And I as far as character, like I'm always mentioning it, James Williams. He's like a real I love the local kids that are Canes all the way, and you don't have to worry about them leaving. At least,
Well, and going back to the character thing, I don't think it's a coincidence that their best player is Cam Kinchens, right? Like,
right.
Who's probably the smartest player on the team. At least like of guys who play a lot and football IQ, all that kind of stuff. And he's another one, went to Miami Northwestern, like local kid, local public school kid. Like that's got to be Miami's bread and butter. Like they've struggled to recruit schools like American Heritage and St. Thomas Aquinas and some of these big private schools, but the public schools at Miami Central, Miami Northwestern, Miami Palmetto have all been good year after year, and Miami typically recruits them very well.
And Cam Kinchens is now hanging from the rafters.
Yes, gets his name up in the rafters, and All-American.
All-American,
really cool.
everything.
I kind of was surprised. Not surprised that like he deserved it, but like considering how bad the season went for Miami.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, pretty cool. And Miami fans get at least another year of him.
And that has to be, by the way, I think good for recruiting too.
Well, and we talked about
nationals.
We talked about him, I think it was after his 3 interception game with Mario and Kevin Steele, and we're getting off track right now, but I didn't have this on the rundown. It's a big deal. They talked about how he's, the hardest working guy in the building, right? The guy who stays after Phil, the only guy in the building later than Mario. Well, like, he gets rewarded for that. And I have to think that, you can be the hardest working kid and you're a walk-on who's just barely getting on the field, or you can be the hardest working kid and it turns you into an All-American because you have just some natural gifts also. And then everyone else sees what you did to get to that point, and hopefully they try to emulate you a little bit. I touched on Francis Maingoa. Obviously, we've been dancing around the Samson Okunlola conversation for a little bit. We should say the one decommitment Miami got this week from 3-star interior lineman Connor Liu, an All-American center from Georgia, flipping to Auburn. Says academics played a big role. Recruiting is never just about one thing. So,
although I don't know.
Yeah, well, I'm sure it played a role, but he knew Auburn was a better an aerospace engineering school than Miami when he committed to Miami back in August or whenever that was.
I can't. It's hard for me to believe that somebody flipping.
Yeah, like I said, it's not just about one thing. Auburn has a new coach. Miami struggled. I'm sure the academics. I'm sure he picked Miami, like I said, knowing what the academic profile of both schools were, and decided at that point that it was fine to pass up on the program at Auburn. Enough things changed that maybe that gets weighed a little bit more heavily. So that's a tough loss for Miami. He's a guy who I think you could kind of pencil him in as this heir to Ja'Kai Clark at center. But I still think everyone's going to be pretty happy with this offensive line haul. As long as Miami gets Samson Okunlola this afternoon, it would be the first time ever that Miami gets 2 5-star, in the recruiting rankings era, which only goes back so far, but the first time ever that Miami gets 2 5-star
that would be
tackles
amazing
in the same class.
That would be totally amazing.
And it would be actually, according to 24/7, they have the all-time commits thing where you can just see like who are the best recruits ever to sign with Miami. If they get Okunlola, they'd have 3 of the 20 highest ranked commits they've ever gotten all in one cycle. And again, this only goes back to like, this doesn't even go back 20 years, I don't think. But it's still a big deal.
That's impressive.
Yeah, recruiting was so different before 20 years before, it around 2000 that it's like it's stupid to compare it anyway. But still, yeah, it would be a big deal.
Right.
And I guess we can pivot over to the portal now, because the biggest portal news of the week is John Campbell Jr. Entering the portal. A guy who started every game for Miami at left tackle. A little bit of a surprise, but then you also think about Zion Nelson will probably be back. And I would guess he'll be a starting left tackle again.
It was a little surprising.
Record.
But
sorry, go ahead.
No, it was that one was a surprise, but I think you're right. I think he has enough confidence now, and he played enough. He played left tackle all year.
Oh, I mean, he'll get recruited as a starting offensive tackle somewhere.
Yeah, he will get right, and maybe he thinks he'll now with what's happened coming, and I just don't know relationships and stuff, but I think he'll. He thinks maybe he'll go to I'm not. Have we heard where he's going? I think
no, not
he'll
yet.
go to a major program. I would.
Yeah,
think.
he'll be a Power 5 guy. I'm sure.
I think he'll go to a Power 5, and they'll be all excited about him. They'll make him feel great, and they'll build part of their offensive line will be obviously built around him as a left tackle, and maybe it'll give him a little more high profile status or something, because all these young kids are coming into Miami with all these. I don't know.
Yeah,
like I said, I liked him, and I liked.
We talk about how like Mario, the big thing he always says with these transfers is like honesty. And
right.
I'm sure the honest conversation with John Campbell was not like, hey, you're not going to start here, but it was, hey, we have Zion coming back. He's going to start somewhere as long as he's healthy. We've got these 2 potentially 5-star tackles coming in. Like we're gonna give them every shot. And all of a sudden, John Campbell goes from being the starting left tackle, which is really good for. I'm sure he still wants to play in the NFL and all that kind of stuff. Like really good for putting film out there, to probably going to be the starting right tackle. And then maybe if we really like what we see from Francis Mauigoa early on, we want to get him on the field because we're still kind of rebuilding here. All of a sudden, John Campbell, you're starting at guard instead. It's
or whatever. Yeah, I agree.
Like it's going to be a competition, and I know people like kind of get annoyed when guys shy away from competition, but John Campbell is probably, I don't know his exact age, but he's going to be a 6th year.
He paid his dues
next year.
Well, it turns
he's
out
running out of time to have competition. Like he
has 2 years of eligibility.
Yeah,
I know. I said he's going for a 6th year, and then I went through and I thought, no, that's wrong. He could only play 6, and then I looked, and that one season he only played 4 games.
Right. So he'd have to get a waiver, but yes, because he has the COVID year. He has his freshman year where he didn't play, right? So he could redshirt that year.
No, I don't think he didn't play. I don't think I have to look at his thing again.
Either way, he needs to get a waiver because one of the years is an injury.
One of the years is an injury, and one of the years he played 4 games. I do think he played all the years.
Okay. So either way,
I have to look.
Either way, he'll need a waiver. They usually give those out. So yes, he does have potentially 2 more years left to play in college.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, he is a guy who, he probably win a competition coming out of camp, but at the same time, like you said, he paid his dues. He's running out of time for competition battles. Like he earned it this year, and I think again, like Miami should be doing this because they're rebuilding. They're going to if there's a tie between a senior and a freshman, that they're going to try to get that freshman out on the field. I have to imagine.
I think so.
That last year.
Yep.
With all, they started 2 freshmen, a true freshman and a redshirt freshman at guard by the end of the year. Wesley Visaint obviously starting by the end of the year. Where else? There's a couple other spots, obviously. So I think it hurts because John Campbell was going to start somewhere on this offensive line.
Yeah.
But I think people rightly are excited about seeing what kind of the future holds with these other guys.
Yep. For sure.
Other portal topic of the week, Brian Bailam takes his name out of the transfer portal. Sounds like he's just going to do the N'Kosi Perry thing, which N'Kosi did a couple years ago, where he exited the transfer portal so he could stay at Miami for the spring, get his degree, all that kind of stuff, keep working out. I think N'Kosi, he didn't practice with the team in the spring, but he obviously had access to the facilities and all that kind of stuff. Bailam I don't know about the latter. It's obviously a different regime now, but
right.
we'll graduate and then re-enter the portal. Of course, Miami can kind of use Brian Bailam now with how thin they are at safety. I don't know how, we didn't see him play at all, so I have no sense of how Mario Cristobal and this current staff value him as a player. But if they do decide that they want him to stick around, it's not bad that he's going to be around on campus for the entire spring to maybe try to convince him to stick around if they feel like they need depth. Obviously, they'll go to the portal.
I don't see Mario as a type.
I don't either.
I don't. First of all, if Mario was the one that suggested that made it seem it would be better for him to be in the portal, or any player, if Mario made it seem it was better for him, maybe it was a good decision to go in the portal, right? Then I don't see him all of a sudden acting like he needs it back. Yeah. And if it's the other way around, if it's the player who made the decision, I don't see Mario at all saying, "Oh, please," I don't see it. Mario's just not like that. I don't know.
Yeah. So we're not expecting him back, but it is a reminder they need to restock at safety, a little bit going into signing day, or going beyond signing day. I guess that's our last topic here is what happens after signing day. I've mentioned the two big battles I think are going to come down to Wednesday, Damari Brown and Stanquan Clark. Of course, there are a couple other ones out there. Miami has tried to flip a couple corners from Florida. I'll have a story Friday morning that they're still recruiting Brandon Innes, 5-star receiver from American Heritage, really hard. Does not sound like he's gonna do anything, but Miami certainly not giving up on trying to flip these top guys, especially these top local guys. But like I said, there will be a couple that come down beyond signing day. Mark Fletcher will be one of them, is the plan. Another one, Chamberlain Campbell, a 6'6" defensive end from St. Pete Lakewood, who I actually saw. They played Miami Central a couple of weeks ago in the state semifinals. Got a chance to talk to him after that game. He had never played football before the summer.
What?
He was a basketball player. He's big. I mean, he made me look short.
Where's he committed again?
He's not committed anywhere. He's like not even ranked. Just starting to get offers in the last like 2-3 months here. Miami had him on. I think he came to the Florida State game, either the Florida State game or the Duke game. But he's a guy who's like kind of a late bloomer, like late riser. Obviously, no one knew about him until September, basically. So Miami has been recruiting him, and then obviously a couple other guys will pop up. Like Trevante Citizen wasn't on really anyone's radar until like January or they went out and got like Inez Cooper. Like they'll find some offensive linemen here and there. Some guys will surprisingly not commit. Or guys or coaching after coaching changes, guys get out of their letters of intent sometimes. So like there'll be names certainly to note into February, but I think you can just look at who they're going after and see what the priorities are. I think if they don't get Damari Brown, they're going to try to find another cornerback somewhere.
They lost so many DBs.
Many DBs to the portal and have gone after, like I said, a couple Florida corner commits. They tried to get an Ohio State corner commit to flip. Obviously, they're battling with Bama for Damari. So I think you look at, if they lose out on Damari Brown, they're going to keep looking for a cornerback. They're going to keep looking for a running back. I think clearly, considering that they like Mark Fletcher. And other than that, I mean, I think it's going to be a lot of portal, but like I said, there'll always be a couple names that pop up late and throw a wrench into things.
It should be another active early signing period, a
Yeah.
day.
I think
especially.
the big story of the day is probably once again going to be Deion Sanders, right? Last year was the Jackson State, like where all these guys, Miami lost a guy there. Obviously, Travis Hunter went there. I think Deion got to Colorado, and I tell you, every recruit I talk to now, there was like, yeah, Deion's trying to get in. Like he's not. He just was not shy about trying to put together a good
I
class
was just gonna
in
say he's not
Colorado.
shy.
And
That's for sure.
he pulls off some, at least at Jackson State, he pulled off surprises. So I'm not expecting, I mentioned Antoine Jackson as the one guy that I know Deion has reached out to from Miami's class. I'm not saying that Miami is going to lose someone to Colorado on signing day, but some schools are going to lose guys to Colorado on signing day. And that is
Yeah.
going to throw the wrench into this whole thing, because that is a school that has never been really a factor with blue chip 5-star guys. And there's now another, in the same way that Jackson State came out of nowhere and was all of a sudden getting high profile recruits last year, Colorado is going to do the same this year, almost certainly.
Yeah, I mean, especially it's Antoine. Deion could be very convincing.
Yes, certainly.
So I have a
And
feeling.
yeah, I think most of like I said, I think most of Miami's class is going to stay intact, but you never know. And with NIL, it's harder to predict
That's true.
recruiting than ever.
True.
So I think.
By the way,
oh, sorry.
Before we wrap up, I just wanted to know, because it was driving me crazy. I looked up John Campbell.
Okay.
He played 4 games his freshman year, his true freshman year, 2018, and that was the year that he redshirted. That would be counted as a redshirt.
Gotcha.
So that was the
Yeah, so he would need a waiver, but again, he's a valuable piece for someone to get in the portal. I think whatever school gets him is going to be pretty excited about being able.
But
to
he
plug
wouldn't
in
need
a
he would, David. He would not need a waiver for one season.
No,
right?
The first year he'll be able to play no matter what.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
of the COVID year.
Right.
So, but yeah, you need. I think when you go over 5 to play, you have 5 years to play 4 is the rule, and everything beyond that you need a waiver. But they always give it for injuries basically, and COVID obviously made it 6 years to play
for these guys
now.
For the ones that were there. Yeah, exactly.
So, okay. I think we can finish things up there. We'll be back next week to wrap up signing day. And then maybe take a little bit of a break around the new year. Although it'll ramp back up, because there's always portal news. And I remember January last year, it was like that first week there was portal stuff every week. You can follow Susan on Twitter at @SMillerDegnan. She'll be obviously down we don't know the plan for Wednesday, but she'll be covering signing day from wherever we're doing all this stuff.
I'll get down there. I might be on the road when a couple kids flip.
Yeah. You can follow me on Twitter at DBWilson2. I'll also be down there on Wednesday, as well as stopping at a high school or 2 here and there. Also state championships this weekend. 1 game will already be done by the time you guys are listening to this, but Friday night, probably one of the highest profile state championship games in Florida history. Nationally ranked number 3 Miami Central against number 10 American Heritage at Drive Pink Stadium in Fort Lauderdale.
That'll be great.
If you're into football, honestly, just go to that game. It's gonna be a really good one. Obviously, Reuben Bain will be on the field, Miami commit. So if you're a Canes fan and want to watch him, really good opportunity to. And then both teams just loaded with talent. So it should be a fun weekend.
Yeah, that should be really fun, that game.
Yeah. All right. So we'll finish things up there. Thanks again, and we will talk to you guys next week.